Hello, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on Sports Illustrated and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. It's great to be with you today. Thank you for joining me. It's Monday. We're going to do a bunch of Q&A. I hope to get. We're no way we're going to get through them all. I probably have. I don't even know. But what I will tell you is that um, when we get your emails, they're read by other people. Then they try to group them, meaning if there's a multiples of people asking the same question, we know that's probably something that's on the mind of Raider Nation in totality. And then they'll pick out one of the best written ones and try to use that. Sometimes we'll use one where there's only one if we find it interesting, but just wanted to let you know how the whole process goes and how we get those selected. So we're going to go through as many as I can. I think there's like 73 here. We'll never do that, but hopefully we'll get through 10 or 12, however many. So let's start with the first one. Comes from Tim C in Hendersonville, Tennessee. He wants to know if Ryan Tannehill could be the solution for the Raiders. um Certainly I think that's a name they need to consider. He has experience with this type of an offense. I'm going to get into that in the next question. um do I think that that is out there? Absolutely. Now, I think the Raiders need to make some interesting decisions. We know the coaches and the players aren't tanking. And if you saw or heard my question of Antonio Pierce today, to suggest tanking the players and coaches is literally an attack on their character and their integrity. I know that fans don't mean it that way, but it's what it is. So, I mean, these guys were paid a ton of money. And hey, you want to just take time off and not work? That's not. I mean, they all want more contracts. If there's a change in coaching, they're going to want to go get other jobs, and if it's just that's not feasible. Um, I only know of one situation where I was kind of told it was tongue in cheek that guys were promised nobody was going to get fired from the coaching staff, but that's not going to happen. However, then they have to make the decision of, okay, they brought in Gardner, who was an all pro last year. That hasn't worked. Do you have confidence that there's leadership here who could get that going on the offensive side with Ryan coming in the middle of it? I'm not against the idea. I just think there's a lot of discussion that has to go on in that building, in the Tom Telesco suite, whether it's talking with Mark Davis, talking with Tom Brady, whatever about future. Maybe I don't know that. Maybe Tom's thing is, I'll review and give my say and opinion at the end of the year. We just don't know. Um, but before they went out and did big deals, there would certainly have to be discussion that involved Mark, and that would involve Tom. That's just the reality of the situation. So, do I think it's a possibility? Yes. Do I think at this point right now would I say, I would bet in the favorable? Well, I don't bet on football, but I mean, I would think all possibilities are on the table. I can tell you from the players and coaches who I've talked to both on and off the record, nobody even wants to hear tanking mentioned. In fact, not mad at me, but mad at other people for even suggesting it. I get where fans are coming from. Totally get that. But I think these guys are all in. They want to compete. They want to win. Um, and I think Tannehill is certainly something that they're going to have to look at. Certainly going to have to. Now, they may say, "Hey, we don't think Tannehill fits us. We feel like he's run out of gas." I don't. That's their call. But yeah, I don't. I would not preclude him at all. Next question is a Tannehill question. It comes to us from Jesse R. Says Joel Philbin worked with Ryan Tannehill before. Do you think there could be bad blood if Tannehill's an option? One thing I'll tell you about the NFL is they say politics makes strange bedfellows. So does football. And when you're a coach or a player and you're not getting a contract right now, and the way the money is in the NFL, you could put aside a lot of hurt feelings. I do not think that now, I don't know this, But perhaps Philbin just says, guys, he's out of gas. There's nothing left in the tank. He's not going to help us. Okay, very fair. But it's not going to be. They want to win. So if they think there's any chance going with this coach can get him a paycheck and win, or if they think going with this quarterback can help them win, they're going to go with that. So don't the blood should not tie in. This next email, I have debated about whether or not to even use the person's name because I've gotten so many emails about this. I have addressed this multiple times. I am never going to address this again. Dear Hondo, with our desperate need at wide receiver, wouldn't Hunter Renfrow be a great fit to bring back? No. Listen, people love Hunter and they should. He is a great guy. But he was out of gas when he was here, and everybody in the NFL has had a shot for him. No, 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 no. You've got young guys on this squad that give them a chance. The next one comes us from Frank L. in Sacramento, California. Hondo, is Tom Brady a buyer on AP? I can't answer that. It's not because I won't. I can't, because Tom and I have not had a discussion at all about AP. But I'm going to tell you what I believe to be 100% accurate and what people I know who know Tom have told me. And I think this is very important. Tom is a buyer on winning. And if you're winning or showing and demonstrating the ability to have a winning leadership, I think Tom would be a buyer. But it would be unfair of me to comment on Tom. The next one comes to us from Melissa H. Melissa H. is from Chicago, Illinois. Hondo, I grew up a diehard Raider fan because of my dad in California. I moved out here to go to law school, and I stayed. I have a question for you. I don't want to know if you think he should or shouldn't. I'm asking you, do you think there is a chance that the Raiders would move on from AP at the end of the year? Again, not what would you do, but just speaking about the franchise. As an attorney who watches your podcast every day, I have learned to listen to you, both how you answer questions and the way you answer questions. So please let me reiterate for a third time. Boy, she is an attorney. I am not asking your opinion if they should or shouldn't. Just do you think there is any chance at all that the Raiders would move on from AP? Sure, I do. And not giving you my opinion if they should or shouldn't. You just asked me if I thought there was a chance that they could. And yeah, absolutely. Next one comes to us from Brandon F. Brandon F. is from Sisseton in the Dakotas. And Brandon says this: Dear Hondo, I have a lot of questions about this team that I find to be completely fascinating. But the other day you talked about a person saying no more of a Raider thing than for them to have actually won at the Rams. That's so true. I appreciated your question in today's press conference and the way you respectively asked about tanking. But I also know in your post-game recap, you mentioned it was good for them. If you're looking for silver lining that they lost, they're closer to a pick. Here is my question. If you were Mark Davis and you know your coaches and players do not want to tank, would you be ordering Tom Telesco to tank? Now, this is a really good question because I've talked to you before about ways to know that a team is tanking. You can tank by literally trying to lose, in which case it's going to get out because players and other coaches are going to complain. It's going to get out, and you're going to end up paying a huge price with the NFL. Or you can tank by trading away a lot of your good quality older players or holding guys out that are not healthy, or I mean, maybe that are healthy, but you can get away with holding them out. There's different in that way. There's no problem with it. Now, I am not advocating this, but a way that the Raiders could tank is to say, okay, we'll trade Spillane, we'll trade Jacoby. They're not trading Maxx, period, but they could trade a Maxx, they could trade a Colton Miller, and say, well, gee, we're trading Spillane because we really like Eichenberg. We're trading Jacoby because we like Ramel Keaton and Tyreek McAllister. We're letting Colton go because we have DJ Glaze and Thayer's coming back. I'm just giving you a numerous of ways that you can tank. Then you go and you get a lot of your young players experience, and you pick up and accumulate picks. That's a way that you can tank, and still all your players are working hard, your coaches are working hard. I'm not advocating that, but I'm saying that's a way that the NFL would totally see what you're doing, but respect the fact you're putting the best product you can on the field. Um, would I order my teams to tank? I would tell you this. You are 7 games into the season. There isn't a snowball's chance that I would do that unless I felt there was a generational quarterback like a Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck type of guy. In which case, I would go through all of my veterans and say, if it's going to take me 3 years to be super competitive with a rookie, who do I see as being part of the answer in 3 years? Who could I see there? All right, I'm going to keep all those guys and trade everyone else. I could see that. I'm not sure that there is that quarterback in this class. I'm not saying there isn't. I'm saying I'm not sure. But that would be my answer there. Next comes to us from Doug C. in Alabama. Actually, it's from Sweet Home, Alabama, is what he says. Hondo, was Bo Hardigree ever given serious consideration for the permanent coordinator? In my opinion, he did very good last year. No, I would not say he was given serious consideration. They wanted a proven, experienced veteran who they thought would develop Aiden O'Connell and bring in a proven track record of play calling and an offense that they felt good about. I will tell you that I absolutely think, considering the circumstances, that Bo Hardigree did a great job. I was surprised he was not retained, although I am sure from his standpoint that would have been a little awkward. But I thought he did a tremendous job. I thought he did an absolute tremendous job. So there you go on Bo Hardigree. Next one comes in. Hondo, serious question here. I know you've not called for anyone's job, and that's why I respect you as a journalist that covers this team. You ask very direct, bold questions, but don't come off as disrespectful or a jerk. If Luke Getsy does not get this offense going in the right direction, would you then at some point advocate a move? And if so, when? Great point. If I am the head coach, and my father was a very successful businessman for many, many years. I have many employees and own businesses. One of the things that I've learned is when an employee is not working out and you know it's not working out, you don't delay it. You make the change. Period. You don't want to string it up. And I'm not preaching it, but one of my favorite Bible verses is above all else, guard your heart. God warns us above everything, guard your heart. I think the longer that you keep employees in positions that you know you're going to be eliminating them, you're not helping them and you're not helping your organization, whether it's a business or a franchise or a team or whatever. So, with that being said, um, obviously they were convinced in Luke Getsy. We saw so much good in the preseason. Things have not been good. Now, with that being said, if I'm the Raiders and I'm sitting here at 2-7, If I'm AP and I'm sitting here at 2-7 going into the bye week, if I'm not sure that he is not the guy, I don't make a change. But if I'm sitting there at 2-7 and my offense is still deplorable, just deplorable, then yes, I feel like I would absolutely make a change then. If he's convinced now that he's not the guy, I think you should make a move now. I'm not advocating for that. I am simply telling you that I think if I am AP and I know there is a chance, and let me tell you guys something. AP is very smart. He's not stupid. He is a very smart man, not just football. He's a smart guy. I'm proud to call AP a friend. I respect him and I like him. So if he's sitting in there and he's like, listen, by the way, it's like he said today, Luke was up in the booth and he said, it was my decision. He made that very clear. AP has not told me he's unhappy with Luke at all. AP has not given me any indication that he's unhappy with Luke. And if he had, I wouldn't tell you. I simply wouldn't tell you that he hasn't. But I think there are enough warning signs. Like today, I mean, I asked about an identity. You're going up against one of the worst teams in the NFL with rushing defense, and you throw 44 times compared to 29 when you were successful running the football. Now, I'm going to get to that in the next question. It's very fair. There were some drop passes, there were some bad throws. I'm not arguing that point. I'm not saying you abandon the pass, but after the second interception, do you maybe get the hint, okay, this is not a good day for our quarterback? At what point do you say, hey, it's still early enough, we can run the football? Run it down their throat. This is a violent, physical game. Football is a violent, physical game. It is a testosterone-fueled sport that will send you to prison for the rest of your life for doing things to people when you cross that white line. That if you did anywhere outside of the white lines, you'd go to prison for it. Run the football down their throat. To me, it was an egregious. Now, there were some things I liked. I'll get out to all that in a minute. But, he made it clear, about his frustration. So I think he is certainly given hints he's frustrated with the offense. But I want to make it clear he has not told me that. And if he had, I wouldn't tell you. I simply would not. It's like the attorney said, she listens to how I answer questions and what ones I answer. I would not lie to you and say, well, I haven't talked to AP. I just wouldn't tell you anything. But he has not said anything to me. So I'm going off what I see. This is experience based on knowledge. And I live in Realville. So there you go. Next one comes up from Curtis. Curtis says, and by the way, Curtis, I really appreciate the first part of your email. I'm not going to read that, but that was very, very kind of you. And it meant a lot to me. And I want to thank you. Curtis says, Hondo, I love listening to you after you've watched film. Did anything from watching the film of this game change your opinion? I would not say, Curtis, that anything changed my opinion. There were certainly some things that I recognized. Okay. Gardner Minshew probably had the worst game I've ever seen him have, and I've watched almost every game he's ever played in the pros. Not everyone. There was a few games early in his career that I have not seen, but I've watched pretty much all of them, especially when they brought him in last year. Um, there were certainly some wide open guys he just missed. I alluded to some of them on social media, but there was even more that I noticed. But still, what stood out to me was even with those misses, the fact that they went away from the running game when it was working. You got a couple of rookies that are struggling a little bit in pass blocking. I thought JPJ and Delmar DJ Glaze had two of their best run blocking games. Were they perfect? Not at all. But were they better? Yes. You're running the football. You're having some success. Go ahead and continue. Use the play action, run the football. Who cares? I've said this so many times. Who cares how sexy it looks? Win. I'm going to tell you something that I really love and I respect about Raider Nation. Just win. And I've seen Raider Nation complain a lot over my 5 years because the team's given you a lot. But I've never seen a Raider fan say, "Oh, we won ugly, would have rather lost." Never seen that. They understand at the end of the day, it's just win. But thank you, Curtis. That was a really kind email of you. Next one comes from some Nathan C. Now, Nathan, I get these emails all the time, so don't take it personal, brother. But I'm not answering this anymore. You all know I have a very good relationship with Maxx. He says, "Is Maxx leaving us?" No. If Maxx leaves, it's not going to be because he asked. It's going to be because the Raiders got rid of him. And the Raiders have made it very clear he's not available. Now, I love Maxx. Maxx is a great friend of mine. I never want Maxx to leave the Raiders because he's my friend and I know he wants to be here. Okay. But I have always said if Wayne Gretzky, see where I'm from, I grew up in the North Country. I'm from Michigan. And anybody that knows anything about hockey knows if Wayne Gretzky can get traded, anyone can get traded. Especially when you look at Wayne Gretzky going from a hockey team in Canada and he goes to SoCal, to LA. Good night, Irene. So that being said, no, Maxx is not leaving you. And if he does, I will have a lot of information telling you what happened. And I would bet most of it comes from him. Next. This is some Doug H in Colorado. How big of a voice is Tom Brady going to have? Well, monstrous. Obviously, Mark Davis is the voice of the franchise, but I believe that Mark has such immense trust in Tom that if Tom says it, Mark will go with it for now. Now, if he proves to fail, Mark may very well change his opinion. I don't know that. I'm just telling you that I think Tom Brady's voice, not because he has a bigger share or stake of ownership, because we know he doesn't, but I think Tom Brady's voice will become Mark Davis's voice, especially at first. Next, Hondo. This is from Michael B. in Charlotte, North Carolina. Wants to know, what do I think about Shedeur Sanders or the other quarterbacks? Okay, let me say this to you. I am all in on the season and covering the season. I have staff who work for me that are covering it. Carter Landis does a great job. He's been writing about several of the quarterbacks. Once the Raiders are eliminated from playoffs, which nobody's sitting here pretending that they're a threat, I'll turn my attention a little bit, and then as soon as the season's over, I will dive into it with all my friends who are experts. I don't claim to be the expert, and I'm not. So for me to answer this would be unfair to any of the candidates at this point, and to be unfair to you in Raider Nation. I've heard things, but I've not watched my own film, and I'll probably spend, depending on what round a quarterback can be taken, a minimum of 10 hours on every draft potential quarterback. And some of them I may spend 50 or 60 hours on. Might, if I think they're clearly in the crosshairs. But anyways, I I don't think it would be fair to you. And you guys know I'm always going to be fair to you. You're my boss. So appreciate that one. Next one comes to us from Megan and Megan MacDonald. And Megan lives in Portland, Oregon. And All right, I got to edit this a little bit, Megan, because it's awful long. Megan says to me, if you had to guess, if I had to guess, last year when you said there were questions about Jayden Daniels as far as his frame and size and the way he plays, transcribing to the NFL, is this what you meant right now? Megan, yes. So let me explain. Nobody thought Jayden Daniels was a bad player, at least nobody with a brain. I will tell you, several NFL people thought he would be great in the NFL, but that the way his frame is structured and the way he plays, he was going to be super susceptible to injury. You're seeing him injured right now. And so, yes, great quarterback. Nobody doubts. Look how great he's been. I think you could make an argument he's the best rookie quarterback in the NFL, and it's not close. I don't. I think he's played better than Caleb Williams, but that frame and the way he plays makes him super susceptible to injury. And that's exactly what we were talking about, Megan. That's really great of you to pick up on that and to notice that. And so, yes, that's exactly what I was distinguishing. Next one comes from Fred Terwalji. Fred Terwilji. Sorry about that, Fred. Fred wants to know, Hondo, if you had to say with all your connections on the team, what's the mood of the team? They're very angry. They're very, very angry. And they're not pointing fingers. They're angry as they know there's too much talent on this team to be where they are. And they're very, very upset and very, very angry. The next one comes to us from Jeff S. in Waukesha, Wisconsin. And Jeff says, Hondo, interesting question here. Just a thought, question, comment, anything that you can do on this. I would really appreciate it. As I'm watching the Raiders this year, there are several things that stick out to me and several things that interest me and bother me about this team. Could you tell me what is something that the average fan is not looking at? I don't believe that you're a hater of the Raiders. I think you're very fair. I'd like to know something you think that people are not talking about. I think this was great, Jeff. Thank you for asking this question. I don't think it's excuses to tell truth. Okay. I don't care how many guys were injured. There was no excuse for the Raiders to lose at the Broncos. There was no excuse to lose to Carolina. Zero excuse. But you look at they lose Christian Wilkins, who many believes the best defensive tackle in the NFL. You lose Malcolm Kuntz before one snap. One snap. You lose Jacoby. Devontae, in my opinion, quits. More on that later. This team has gone through a lot. And I don't think Raider fan is taking that into context. Now, before you take that as an attack on Raider fan, it's not. They've had to deal with this for 20 years. 20 years. So they're like, listen, every year has ups and downs. Why is this any different? Just win. I get that. That's the motto of the franchise. But I do think that's very fair. I don't think people have talked enough about that. Next one comes to us from Stephen S. Stephen S. lives in El Paso, Texas. Stephen S. Hondo, lifelong Raider fan since 1965. I heard you on national radio. It at least sounds like there's a potential that AP won't be back. I know you didn't give your opinion. You just said that you don't think that it's a guarantee he's back. I appreciate the way that you voiced your opinion, but I don't know how you feel. Sorry, I'm trying to weed through some of this. I'm not going to tell you how I feel. Well, I will in a minute. I will tell you. My question is, if the Raiders move on from Antonio Pierce, do you think he got a fair shot? Okay, I want to address this because I think this is a really good question. He's going to get his contract. And if he's fired before the contract's over, he's going to get the buyout. So when you're talking about fair, it's a deal that he agreed to with Mark Davis. That's fair. Do I think, he hasn't had a quarterback. They couldn't move up and get one. He was adamant for Jayden. But the cost to move up, first of all, no team wanted to move up. And so you have to take that into account as well. He's not had a quarterback. Devontae, in my opinion, quits. Jacoby's injured. Christian, Malcolm, you look at all of the injuries that they've had. Those are legitimate injuries. And do I think he has been able to show us the full gamut of his ability? No. That's why you give a coach 20 games. But at the same time, if the Raiders were to make the decision that they felt like they needed to move on, he's going to get the money that comes to him and the agreement that he made. So it's not like anyone's being unfair. I want to make that clear. I just don't believe he's shown enough to right or wrongly, right or wrongly, make a definitive decision at all. Now, they may come in, say, you know what, we've seen enough. It was a bad year. We're going to just clean house of everybody and move on. Everybody gets paid their contract, so it's not like anyone was dealt unfairly. But I don't think that you can make a decision on what kind of coach AP is. Certainly this year does not look like last. And I think there are a lot of reasons as to why. A lot of reasons as to why. And I just think that's being fair, and that's what I want to be. And, do I think that we have seen enough to label Antonio Pierce a failure? Not at all. I think there's a lot of good things he's done, but it's why I told you this offseason, I give coaches 20 games. And if they were to get rid of him and bring in another coach, Vrabel, I would give him 20, even though he's a track record of a coach. Why? He's got to get his players in here that meet his scheme. He's going to have to bring a staff in, then decide, do I need to move this guy from the staff? He's going to have to do some drafts, whatever. But you're asking AP to have proven something when he doesn't have a quarterback and a multiplicity of injuries and a new staff. Sorry. I think you can absolutely move on if that's what ownership and management feels should happen. And it's not like he got screwed. He's going to get paid according to his deal. I just don't believe you can move on saying, hey, we're convinced. Saying, hey, he's a terrible coach. I don't think that would be truthful either. And that's where I'm just trying to be balanced with you. And I'm going to tell you something. I would tell you if I thought the Raiders should move on from AP. I would absolutely tell you that. I am not afraid to give my opinion. But that's not what I feel. It's not where I'm at. I think he's got to manage his staff. I think he's going to show us a lot about his abilities and talents, managing his staff. I think there may have to be some hard decisions, which I don't have any concern that AP would or would not be able to do that. That's just where this is all coming from. Listen, thank you all for joining us today. I hope you appreciated this. Obviously, we'll have another podcast for you tomorrow. We do them every single day. 2 and 5 with the Chiefs coming to town. Tomorrow we'll be talking about climbing the mountain. See you tomorrow, everybody.